All right. Okay.
Okay.
I found the room now.
Perfect. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the weekly uh, Career Advancement Club meeting that is hosted every Thursday at 7 p.m. It's good to see you all out here. We do have our honored guest for you today, as usual. I believe we're having a technical difficulties, and we're trying to work on that. But in the meantime, let's continue with the usual first introductions, where we talk a little bit about the Career Advancement Club, introduced our sponsors, and by the end of it, hopefully the issue will be resolved. If not, I do have Gabe here, so we can discuss further about ideas in relation to the Career Advancement Club. As you probably know, I see the new faces as well. This Career Advancement Club, we host like this meeting every Thursday. And this is a place where we share career advancement tips and experiences where we get to learn from different people with different background. And we hope to network and create a new environment where everyone benefits from it. Um, as a start, if anyone would be willing to write a full name or a city you're from, I would really appreciate that. You can leave that on the chat box so that we can engage using your names and so on. So feel free to leave your full name and the city you come from in the chat box. So our Zoom ID won't change every week. The Zoom ID is 991 244 4850. And this is the ID that we use every week. Thank you, Gabe Hamda, for joining us. I see Joe from Florida as well. And the rest of you, like, feel free to share your details when time suits you. So for those of you who are new, the whole idea behind this club is to inspire career advancement seekers to achieve their highest human potential. We also aim to connect career advancement seekers with local career resources. And this career promoter serves all people who seek career advancement. So we have been having different guests on the show with different background who are able to share their success stories, which help a lot of us in different ways. We were able like to network, so that's the whole idea between or behind the career promoter. With that, I'll take you to a friendly important message from the career promoter. So if you're seeking a career advancement, we suggest you contact your nearest American Job Center, where you'll be able to get a lot of support. Tell them about American Job Center, Google it, American Job Center, and find your nearest center that might be available around you. Uh, just to show you how the website looks like. It has like different features. where you can explore like careers by typing the field that you're in, or like the job position that you're searching for. And you can also use uh, the different features that are provided on the website. So visit the Virtual American Job Center. The website address is www.careeroneastop.org for self-assessment, training, and other career services. They do have different resources that you can uh, access. They provide trainings, they provide different mentorship, and please feel free to check it out. And we do have different sponsors of the weekly club meeting. And the first one is Impact. Impact provides management and IT solutions. The website is www.impact.com. You can contact John Hiley by 571-264-4744. So what Impact provides is they provide simplified solutions besides management services from start to completion, information technology services from basic to complex based on customer needs. So we thank our sponsor Impact for the support. Our other um, sponsor is Addy Solutions. Addy Solutions provides digital marketing, including website development, print and online promotion materials, online marketing, and advertising. Feel free to contact Luciano Stashaga by phone number 301-351-7360 if you have like different needs. We promise you these people are the right people to contact. The email is also provided right underneath the number. Our other sponsor is, next slide please, Azeb Tele Promo Club LLC. They are one of our sponsors. Among the services they provide, B2B Global Network, top level music promoter, and nonprofit promoter. If there is any need, you can contact them by 316-633-0593, and Azabe would be happy to take your questions and then like provide you any service you might be interested of. I believe our last sponsor is ICAT. So ICAT provides like different services. Among the services that ICAT provides, it includes Career Academy, outsourcing, staffing and recruitment, applied data analytics, social enterprise, and so on. ICAT provide different trainings for different needs. You can contact ICAT by 904-382-5471. Our own Gabe Hamda would provide you the services and all the information that you need. The website is also provided underneath. So we have a friendly reminder here. Please make sure your mics are muted all the time so that we can focus on the slides and the discussions with our guest. We suggest you turn off the video as well. If you have any questions, feel free to press on the raise hand icon so that we can address your questions. Besides that, if you have any questions, suggestions, feedbacks, feel free to use the chat feature where you can engage more as well. And at the end, we also have like a Q&A session at the end of the interview where you be able to ask any question for the guest as well. I'm trying to see if we have solved the technical issue with our guest. I don't see Michael yet. Michael was our Just for
I'm
connection.
here.
Oh, you're here?
Yeah, I'm on the calling by the phone. Now I'm unable
Oh,
to get in using my PC, and I've been locked out using my tablet, so I
I'm so
can't get
happy
back
to
in
hear.
using my tablet. So if you can unlock me using my tablet, we're gonna have to go with it.
Awesome. I think I can hear you clearly with the phone. If you're okay, we can keep like using your phone for the interview.
All right.
I've
Okay, we
been
can do that.
stumbling on like different plan Bs, thinking like we lost you, but so happy and relieved to hear from you, Mike.
Yeah, but I'm locked out. Okay. All right.
Awesome.
So I dialed in, but you can't tell it's me. All righty.
Awesome.
Let's. Okay.
Awesome. Tiffany, we can jump into the success story slide. So, Mike, first off, I would like to say thank you for giving us your time here to share your career tips and experiences with us. We've been having different people on the show like for a couple of weeks as well. I believe your insights are going to be helpful for a lot of people with us. Just to give a little bit background of Mike, Mike is a software developer. He's been a software developer since he was 24. In addition to creating customer software for clients, he has built off-the-shelf software packages, conducted seminars, and webinars as well. Um, the bio that I got, Mike, says that you believe that everyone is a salesman, a manager, and an engineer. This is something I would love to talk about a little further. But without further ado, Mike, feel free to introduce yourself. Feel free to talk about your background, your career in general, and I'll leave the next minutes for you, Mike.
All righty. I've been writing software since I was 15, so I have a lot of experience with it.
Okay.
I initially viewed it as something that you do for whatever else while you're doing something else, i.e., not a primary career path, but a skill that you use for whatever other career path you have. I took a similar view about languages. I don't think that you learn a language to try to be a translator or anything, but while you're whatever it is you do, if you're a butcher, a baker, a candlestick maker, a lawyer, a computer programmer, scientist, whatever it is, that you're going to use your computer skills and you're going to use your languages, okay, to facilitate that and to make you better at that. To the same degree, when you mentioned that, I think that everyone is a salesman and is a manager. That's what I get. Now, I noticed that there's a list of questions here that it was sent, interview questions, and I don't know if I'm moving too quickly here. This is my first time doing it in the group, and my first time, only my second time actually listening.
You're doing marvelous,
Um,
Mike. No worries. I'll provide the questions like after the introduction, but I just wanted to give you that opportunity if you would be willing to talk about like your background, whether you have gone to school and so on. The reason why I'm
oh,
raising this is like when people want it or when people are interested to join the IT field, there's always a debate. Like these days, people or like the way artificial intelligence is going, the career academy, like going to universities, might not be as important as they used to be because like there are like new platforms created in order to study, like it could be a different programming language or like it could be anything. So I'll be happy if you can talk a little bit about that. Like, do we need to go to school in order to be a software developer, or like as the current trend shows, we can stick using like different resources where we can watch videos or like different resources that can come handy to learn in a self-paced or like other form. So if you have
I got to
anything
say
that,
that's an I got to say that's an incredibly relevant question.
Mhm.
If you go to school and you get a degree, what you learned in school will be out of date
Mhm.
as soon as you graduate. So your first thing is you've got to study continuously, and you can never stop.
Sure.
Right now, the other problem though is if you don't have a degree, there are many venues which are not going to take you seriously. You're more likely to find, particularly in the DC area or in a government thing, they want to see a degree. And it used to be that Microsoft and Google wanted to see a degree. And so you kind of want to have it. It's nice to have a degree. And then what you want to do is go and continue to be a student all the time. And Khan Academy and a lot of these online stuff is good. And reading books and having your own IT agenda where you have your own machines and you build things and you go through your lessons. That's not just the programming language. That's going to be Oracle or Postgres SQL database, Linux, and so on. Right now, I'm looking at a Linux desktop, okay, which it's failing me on Zoom, but I haven't sorted it out. I haven't even tried it yet. So it's new, the Zoom part on it. But I think that you want to, ultimately, you need to learn by doing, and you want to do before you show up at work, and you want to find creative ways of doing it. And then once you're working there and once they know you, they'll ask you to do things and they'll realize something wasn't on your resume. Also, increasingly, companies have their own ways of figuring this out. Now, but there are different types of companies. If you're looking at something that is not a government contractor that has fewer than 60 employees, it's going to be kind of brass knuckles, brass tacks. You know what you're doing. They're going to know, and they're going to make you do it. A lot of times, and if you're going for a lot of large corporations or government, you're going to really learn what they want you to do after you get there, and then you're just going to navigate the hiring process. But it'll be a more difficult hiring process because they may not pay attention to whether or not you can actually do the job. You have to go through their protocols, more or less. So that's the delay. There's a book called, I'm sure everybody's heard of it, What Color is Your Parachute? It's the 2017 version. Talks about and breaking in to look for jobs with 60 or fewer employees, which I found fascinating. It's as if they've given up, or they're telling you to give up on the entering your stuff into these computer advertising pages and jumping. The flip side of all that, of course, is just knowing someone where you want to go and they having the authority to bring you in and they're working the system. I hope I've answered that question.
That is really a great insight, Mike. Of course, like this is like a question that has been discussed by different people. Different people have like different opinions. So like it's really hard to um, be decisive like when like new people are like trying to join, especially the IT world. So that is really a helpful insight. So speaking of insights, what are the best insightful career tips that you received from others in the past? And a follow-up question to that is, what other tips you might have for those who are interested to join your field?
Yeah, I always wonder about the relevancy of what I've done and how I do it and my rules. And there's probably something to be learned there for everybody, but I wouldn't tell everyone that they have to follow it or even should. When I talk for tips, these really are more deliverable. How you got to deliver something. You have a product, service. For me, it's software development. Now, once I'm in the place where I've worked, they would ask me to do all manner of stuff and would like having me around because I could do all manner of stuff. I didn't always like it. Like when I was 24, they would have me meet with the lawyer. Right? And then my bosses would stop meeting with the lawyers like half the time, because let Mike do it. Okay, and I had a knack for that. It just did. I had no interest in meeting with lawyers.
Yeah.
I find that the same was with my clients later on. They say, we like having you around, and they'd have me do what they brought me in to do, but then things come up, and I'm there, and you want to do that. So my big one is to do whatever they want you to do, and the tips for trips, and also from a standpoint of delivery, maybe you've all heard this one expression: plan your work and work your plan. You can decide consciously to plan your work and rework it or plan and then to do it. And a lot of folks, roughly half the population, are said to lean toward organization, and about half the population would tend to not be organized. I've never felt that I was organized a lot or organized enough, and yet everybody tells me that I'm organized. And I find this appreciated in a stereotypical kind of way among the Swiss Germans and Germans, and thus I've decided that, okay, they must be right, but I'm not organized enough, and I need to work on that. Now, the other folks is, now the flip side is the other half, they're kind of labeled disorganized in all the business literature and so on, but I think that's really a mistake. I think what really happens is that you have those who are systematic and those who aren't. And those who are systematic, they can see their organization and they have to, if they can see their organization, others can see their organization and appreciate it, and even talk about it to others and to get you work and referrals because of that. Oh, he's organized. He's going to take care of this. He's going to do that. The person who fits the other 50% who doesn't get that label, typically he works in a job where he's proceeding using the organization methods and plans and protocols there for him. Like if he works in an insurance company or a bank, they have millions of things and procedures, and they train you, and they have a path for you to run in, and you run in. The only difference is you're less inclined, the less organized person, the so-called disorganized person, is simply not inclined to create the system, but he's perfectly fine in it. And so he's there. Now, once he's learned a few things, he can put things together, and he can do so. But you plan your work and you work your plan. And the other one, this is ancient and is hackneyed: measure once, cut twice. Right? You gotta know what they really want, and you really do have to know what they want. And a lot of times they can't tell you when it comes to software. A lot of times you have to be a detective. Okay, and so but just the importance of taking the time to figure out what they really want. Those are the big tips that I would say from others.
Thank you for that tip, Mike. That's one of the essential ones, I believe. Plan your work and work your plan. That's a great way of saying it. I believe like that's not something we all good at. And then using the tip that you just mentioned, I believe like that's something we can always improve for. Thank you very much. And you do have one question from our participants named Azeb Dalil. She's asking, she says, tell me about system software programmers usually work in. Tell me about system software programmers usually you work in. I believe she is referring to the programming language that you're working at. Is that what she meant?
I know many programming languages.
Yeah.
I what I consider my primary ones over the years, let's say going back to 2014, would be C++, Java, JavaScript, all the web stuff, Python, and those are the major ones. Then there are other languages since 2014 that I have dabbled in but haven't done anything serious with what I'm ready to, like Rust and Kotlin, and there's the I'm trying to think Google, not the Google, the Spanish language. It has a whole different name for it. I can't remember at the moment, but there. Now going earlier, there's of course a variety of basics, including the Microsoft basics. You know, there's a book that has 200 dialects of basics out there, so there's a lot of basics. When it comes to languages, I think everybody should know how to program in C++, simply to know how to deal with anything that comes out the pipe, to know the language that the other languages are written in. You know, most people don't realize that most computer programming languages are themselves written in C++. C++, though, is not efficient for basic business, what I'm going to call business qualified programming. Incredibly fast is incredibly dangerous. But once you know it, a lot of languages are sort of like it. Once you know C++, then learning Java, learning .NET, and other languages are sort of C-ish in their take to things, and you can learn it pretty quickly. Python's a comer. Python's in its own world, and it's a great scripting language, and a lot of people like it. Now, C++ and C call them a real meat programming languages. Still, you don't have to know a real meat programming language if you're not going to do the kind of things that it has. But you're going to have be able to function with your back against the wall. You might just learn Java, JavaScript, and the various internet languages like HTML and cascading style sheets and things like that. The term system usually implies back-end programming and writing an operating system or writing another language in the term system. So with system, you got to know C and C++. And then the other stuff is you probably will end up doing your work in less than those, more Rust, but you want to know it.
Thank you very much, Mike. I'm sure like there are a lot of programming language out there. I believe like especially for the newcomers, I hear that like Python is very easy to get you fit in and then like see how it feels and so on. But depending on the need, I guess like participants or individuals can do further research. You have another question from one of our participants, Gabe. He says, please share a story of when you succeeded just being yourself and working with clients or the boss. Also, do you have example of when you succeed by being flexible? So what is your rule for when you stick to your own style versus when you adapt?
Okay. I'm going to give you two examples here, two war stories.
Sure.
One was with a nonprofit, and I would get my work mostly through referral. I find it somewhat humbling, in that I like to think that I've read all these business books and marketing and small business administration seminars and marketing and all these good things, but ultimately it's somebody whom I helped in the past comes into somebody who I help. And what's even better is when it's a company, a vendor of equipment, and they know you and they like you, and they go and send people to you, and that's the goal. Now, this was the latter case. This particular nonprofit had their subscriber base on an ancient database that was just going away and crashing, okay, and they're having problems. They kept bringing in people to try to fix it. And I ended up going in there. I was number 6, and they show me what they have. And then I started asking them specific questions about things that I need in order to answer the questions and solve their problems. And then they start looking, so you've seen this, so you've known that. Now, that is, just being eventually the right person, okay, after so many others. And I created a script that would repair their data because there were problems in the software that would recreate it, and they were going to replace it. And that script, I always named it Mr. Clean, like the detergent. And these guys told me, or the ladies told me, that I was walking on water, and that, and then they would start using Mr. Clean for all kinds of things that had nothing to do with the real problem, but Mr. Clean never damaged anything, and it was they were very, very happy with it. And so, that was ancient experience in talking. Now, another situation was with the Dallas Morning News. I created with a group of another consultant designed a management software package for how to run the house. They were building a new newsprint facility in Plano, Texas. They went to their cable company, and the first guys who ever go to the cable company was for more than a few bucks a month, and they had them, because they had the right of way, they had them dig their own fiber optic line from Dallas to Plano, and then they had these $1 million fax machines on each side. They had these stations and these rooms that controlled printers, and they controlled everything else. And I wrote the software that ran on that network and also communicated over the fiber optic line and to their headquarters, which is in the building across the street from the famous Texas Book Depository, from where President Kennedy was shot from. It was in that big building. These guys were incredibly political, and they tended to operate like a flock of birds. And when something appeared to not be going right, or they heard something, they would go, and the flock of birds would take flight. We'd just make a mess and create political conflict, and would get in the way of actually fixing or doing anything. And so one of the things I did, I had a meeting, and I just said to them, hey, guys, if you guys think you're knowing something wrong, make note of it, but don't talk to me or don't say anything within 48 hours unless there is something isn't actually working and you know what it is. The person who is actually doing the job and he can call me with a problem, right? But that just cut down a lot of talk, and I had to be flexible, and I had to get them to be flexible. The second thing was, it was so political, was that while the project was created by management and the newsies, I was spending most of my work with the production people. Now, I don't know if you guys know anything about in television stations and in newspapers, the folks who produce the content and the media and the reporters, they hate the folks who print the newspapers, who run, who run the television cameras, and to do that, and they have an incredible rivalry. Right? But because I was working mostly with the production people, they hijacked me, and I let them. And the newsie, the guy who was sponsoring the program, the head guy, he left. So it became a production process. Now, as far as my being flexible, the production guys are very, very upset when the newsies want to change the paper after the paper has been laid out and put together, or even it's being printed. They don't like that. Okay, one of the things of the rivalry between the two groups. So they have something called a makeover. You have a newspaper page, and you're going to make over in the newspaper page, and then that's bad enough. When you watch the old movies and you see somebody pick up a phone at a newspaper printing place in an old movie, and he calls down and he says, "Hold the press." You see that a lot in Hollywood movies, the older ones, particularly the black and white movies. And then, and that's the makeover is a hold the press, but it was always on a touchscreen monitor in my computer. Then, after telling you to hold the press, the newsies would go and change their mind. And that was called an unmakeover. And so what the production guys had me do was come up with a special color on the status screens and the information that would let the production guys express their ire and stick it in the face of the news people and have it appear in a color. It was called the unmakeover color. Now that was never in the plan, never the thing, but I went with the flow. I let myself be hijacked. I changed my mission. There are a number of other ones too. I probably want to. I can go on with this. I have too many war stories. But flexibility.
Yeah, thank you very much for that answer, Mike. So I'm gonna ask you the next question, followed by another question that came from Azib. My next question would be, in the programming language world, like most of the things are like trial and error. But besides like the technical aspect of it, what are the career lessons that you have to learn in a hard way?
All right, learning the hard way. I find that most of what you learn the hard way is not technology. Okay? Once you get past the fact that things aren't always written down, okay? And then you have to figure it out. And there are too many possibilities and combinations to do it by trial and error. Mm-hmm. The old IBMers used to have an expression called "wear the sucker out." Okay? And the old IBMers who I worked with years ago would say, "You got to wear the sucker out." You can't do that today. It would take you 6,000 years to wear the sucker out. I have a mathematical proof on that, by the way, for certain things. Okay, but they're really people problems, and they're meshing with the technology the hard way. The biggest one, to me, is often you're dealing with an extreme, seemingly impossible people problem in a group, and you solve the problem, and you have to use a lot of nerve to solve the problem, and you think you're going to get into all kinds of trouble and additional fights when you solve the problem, and you don't. And that's because they know more than you ever will know. That's the kind of rule. And my big example of this is the time I fired my boss's brother. Oh. All right? Now, I was pretty young and somewhat bold, but there was a severe character issue that just kept popping up. And I'm not going to go into details of it, but I warned him, and then I fired him. Mm-hmm. And then I went and I called my boss his brother. And I told him that I had just fired his brother. And there was a long pause on the phone. And then my boss goes and says, change the locks. And that's all he said. I was expecting all kinds of other stuff. But he knew his brother better than what I would ever do.
Yeah.
Right? There was a second one, and that along that line, a hard lesson, was I had a there's a new project with a government-sponsored entity. I mean, it's not government, it's not profit. It was in the middle, and I had created a proposal, and I had it there, and the folks who were going to do it and drive it, they were all on board with everything, but they had a controller. Okay, I'm going to use this name, Malt.
Okay.
All right, this is an old story, long gone. I'm sure Malt is a controller, right? Now Malt starts attacking the proposal, starts saying all these things that he doesn't know, starts carrying on. And I listened to Malt for a good while, and then I went and I decided, well, okay, I'm going to tell Malt off, and this deal is not going to happen. And I told Malt off, and I told him that he's read too many computer magazines, and that he doesn't know what he's talking about, and that me and his people have put together a proposal and blah, blah, blah. And then Malt was silent, and I left. I figured it was over. And then I get a call from one of Malt's underlings. He says, "Where are you?" And I very gently mentioned the fact, well, gee, I figured that Malt was going to kill everything. And they said, Malt is no longer here. He quit. Yeah. Okay. But the other, from they know what's more than you know, these two other points are much shorter. One, navigate questioning carefully. I have to make sure that in detail, early in the game, that I know what they really need, what they really want, and what's going to make them happy. Yet at the same time, in getting that information, it's possible to embarrass the client. Okay, and so you got to be careful. Again, I was very young, and when I learned this lesson, there was the DC government used to have something called the CETA program, and my masters told me to go and talk to the CETA folks, and I asked them questions, and I realized they had more employees than clients, whom they were performing services, but they wanted a computer. But people get computers, so it was a total. And they didn't really want to talk about capacities and how many and numbers and so on. And of course, it was eventually shut down anyway. So when you see something like that, so navigate questions carefully. And then the other one is to qualify all opportunities. I can't overemphasize the importance of knowing what you're getting into before you do it, before you take it. You can't quote it if you don't know what you're getting into, the details. You have terrible surprises, and so on. Yeah.
Yeah, that's another great insight from you, Mike. Thank you very much. So we have like 10 minutes. I have a lot of questions remaining, but I hope we will have you back on a weekly session sometime soon, Mike. But I'm gonna post my questions and then go to our participants' questions for now. So Azib is asking, what kind of development are you currently doing? Tell me about a tough software development problem and how you solved it. That's the question she just forwarded.
Okay, I'm currently working with Java Spring. I can't talk about the details. It's with call it a kitchen product, but Until it's on the market, I have to be quiet about it. Okay, but it's Java Spring is what I'm mostly using, and I'm doing most of it on the back end, and much of the front end is being created by Java and put on the back end.
Mhm.
Now the other question was a problem that was solved. Was
Uh,
it
it says,
David?
tell me about a tough software development problem and how you solved it.
Going back to the newspaper, they had touchscreens that didn't work with the software development tools I was using, and I don't have any hair now, but I did then, and I was pulling it out, and I didn't get any help, and the language people weren't doing it. The company called LODIP, which is still around, which made the touchscreen monitors, didn't do it. Didn't have any help, and my software wasn't able to listen to someone touching the screen. And we had these monitors all throughout the Dallas Morning News, monitoring and controlling and displaying status of what is going on, and letting people drill into sections of newspapers and so on. I ended up essentially hacking the touchscreen driver, and patching it with a little bit of assembly language.
Okay.
And I solved the problem. I tell people I don't do assembly, but if your back's against the wall, you need to do whatever it takes. And this was on a fixed price contract.
That's great. That's very great.
Mm-hmm.
Gabe says it's a good point to know what you're getting into. In other words, being aware of what, why, how, of what you're asked to do. Wise idea. Yeah, he's relating to what you just stated. I have another question since we have like a few minutes left of. What actions led you to secure jobs, Mike? I'm sure you have worked for different companies in the past. So what specific actions you took led you to secure jobs? In addition to that, I think you kind of mentioned it when you answered the previous questions. You did work for a nonprofit. I'm sure like you've worked for the federal government at some point. If you can walk us through like what are the pros and cons working for a federal position and a commercial side or a nonprofit job.
Okay. That's a very relevant question to me, in that I started off working for a startup, and then the startup would take jobs from everybody. They'd be federal, commercial, nonprofit, and whatnot. And I wrote a lot of government proposals. From that experience, I ultimately went independent, and one of my major business plans was to never do any government work. Right? That's where I ended up with it. So I did it. 78% of their projects fail. You're hamstrung in so many different ways. In general, you can't be your best. I'm sure there are exceptions out there. I believe some of the scientific organizations would constitute a pretty good exception, like NASA, and so on. All right. Now, when I became an independent, I did a lot of nonprofit work, and the walking in the water deals with nonprofits. They're still clients actually, but what I did was I eventually decided that you're better off sticking with blood-sucking corporations. They treat you better, they pay you better, and there's just less nonsense. The nonprofits will tend to spend a lot of money trying to save money, nothing more. And I would do clever things. I would be flexible. Like I would give them the hardware they needed for remote so I could remotely connect and not have to drive out to their office. Right? Yeah. and it would do stuff like that.
That's really
There,
great.
yeah, and but now most of the nonprofits that I did have been religious nonprofits, and a lot of this for volunteer. The stuff that I did in Africa is all volunteer, and in Zimbabwe. So there's a lot of money there. The nonprofit industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and there are 3 associations of associations, associations of nonprofits around, and there's just a lot going on. But that's kind of weird. That's the weird part. Now, the corporate guys, they're relatively quick to spend their money. They'll spend a lot. Okay? They want you to deliver what they want to deliver. And I don't want to say that everything's bed on roses and so on. And I had a lengthy conversation with a lady who used to work for a lot of nonprofits. And they're less evil. I don't really get that. You got some organization that's trying to save the world, and then there's the blood-sucking corporation, and the blood-sucking corporation is less evil and how they treat their employees and how they run themselves and everything. So I don't totally exclude, but I went towards the commercial. Now, though, since 9/11, the commercial was really squeezed in the D.C. area by the government. When you have the FBI double in size, and you get all these bureaucrats and there. So in hindsight, I kind of wish I had gotten a security clearance and had the options, because once my royalties ran out on the software that I published, it's nice to be able to just get on a website and grab a government job and make some money, a contract, quickly.
That is really great. I'm sure your insights have been so helpful, for many of us. I know we will share the video for the rest of our audience. As I've said, I believe there are more we can talk about on your field. I hope to have you on the session back again sometime soon. I'll keep in touch and reach out, and the team also will reach out at the same time. So we only have 1 minute. So if there is anything you would like to add or to conclude with, feel free to do so, Mike. You can use the next 1 minute for that as well.
Alrighty, for the next 50 seconds, and stop me as if I go over it. You got to never cease to be a student, and you have to continue to learn. No one who doesn't spend a minimum of 6 hours a week learning something new in the computer industry is really going to be a mover and a shaker. And then he's going to find himself occasionally having to focus on the new thing for a couple of weeks. And you have to have that mindset, and you got to be able to do it. And in that industry. And so the school is good for the paper, but you need to learn. And we have fantastic resources now. We are so blessed. And other than that, I'm just going to say, if I don't see you guys anytime soon, happy Thanksgiving and Merry Christmas.
Thank you very much, Mike. Thank you. I cannot wait to have you back on the show again. Happy holidays to you too as well. Everyone, thank you for taking part. We will see you next week on the same time. Thank you for participating. Have a good day. Enjoy the rest of the week as well. Be blessed.
See you all next week.
Yes, sir. Good night, everybody.